Just a few months back, we had discovered that Square Enix had planned for a massive spike toward the end of their current fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2020. This massive spike was thought to be because of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which has been both rumored and speculated to be coming this year. However, just recently, Square has posted their results briefing session, having shown a delay in this spike of income to next fiscal year. This has led people to believe that by proxy, Final Fantasy VII Remake wouldn't be coming until the fiscal year of 2021, which would span from April 2020 to March 2021. Because of this, it's led to a giant freakout with regards to when Final Fantasy VII Remake will be releasing now. But looking at this more practically now, it all makes sense to me in a way that didn't before. Initially, I too thought that this operating income spike almost certainly had to be caused by Final Fantasy VII Remake. It stood to reason that this was an indicator of the game's release, but that's actually not necessarily the case. This spiked operating income almost undoubtedly was Square Enix's top secret Avengers project. When you look at the graph of their midterm targets, in the same fiscal years that Final Fantasy XV and Kingdom Hearts 3 released, the net sales are roughly the same as this fiscal year. Final Fantasy XV released in fiscal year 2017, and Kingdom Hearts 3 released in fiscal year 2019. We're now in Square Enix's fiscal year of 2020, and the projections for this year are about the same as when those massively selling titles released. And if it does end up releasing this year, Square Enix's projections are that it will sell just as much as those two prior games did, which is incredibly reasonable. Also, Final Fantasy VII Remake is confirmed to get a massive unveiling next month at E3 on June 10th. Square Enix only has two major announced titles that haven't released yet: Final Fantasy VII Remake and the Avengers Project, with Final Fantasy VII getting an unveiling next month, and the Avengers Project completely MIA. In fact, we haven't even really seen gameplay of it. In fact, we've barely seen anything of it. We've only gotten a brief teaser. So it then becomes much more likely that it was the game that got delayed. It also makes sense that their original target was this year for the Avengers Project. With the Avengers in-game releasing this year, it only made sense for them to want to push the game out in order to maximize sales. Of course, this didn't happen, and we still don't know anything about the Avengers Project, nor do we have any hints about it coming anytime soon. But it definitely stands to reason that this spike is caused by the Avengers Project. After all, however popular Final Fantasy VII is, which is massively popular, the Avengers is a lot more popular. When you consider that Marvel has just begun the MGU, or Marvel Gaming Universe, to complement the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that Square Enix's Avengers project is part of this gaming universe, Square Enix can expect massive sales. Insomniac Games' hit PlayStation 4 exclusive title, Spider-Man, posted 9 million in sales total, in just a short window from the game's release in September 2018 all the way to January 2019, with the game most likely pushing 10 million units by this point. To put this in perspective, Final Fantasy XV sold 8.4 million units over the course of 2 years. Even Final Fantasy VII, which sold 11 million units, and is the highest selling single-player Final Fantasy game ever, but it did this over the course of PlayStation 1's lifetime. But with such a dominant force like Marvel, Spider-Man's 9 million copies were sold in just a matter of a mere 4 months. If you get the picture here, Marvel sells a lot more worldwide than pretty much anything, and this Avengers project is going to be absolutely huge. And stepping back and looking at things more practically, it's going to be responsible for the huge surge of cash. That said, what does this mean for Final Fantasy VII Remake's release? Well, it's a bit hard to say. Square Enix currently has no major titles announced for fiscal year 2020, which started in March 2019 and will end in March 2020. At the very most, they have Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, which will generate a lot of money, but it seems unlikely that it would carry Square their entire fiscal year on its own. Looking at it more practically, it would seem that the game would launch this year for that reason alone. But despite this, it's still entirely possible for the game to launch next year as well. In other words, we'll have to find out next month. The big picture of what I'm trying to say here is that it's definitely not hard confirmed that Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming next year because of this. It caused some people to freak out and jump the gun, but this isn't the case necessarily. It doesn't mean that it won't release next year, it just means that this doesn't confirm it. But I would say if you're a fan of the Avengers, you almost certainly will be waiting until 2020 or 2021. So Ultima Weapons, what do you make of all this financial talk? Do you think Square Enix will show more of the Avengers project at E3? Or do you think we'll finally get a release date for Final Fantasy VII Remake already. Subscribe, click the bell icon, and let me know in the comments below. If you've been enjoying my content, be sure to check out the Patreon for the Night Sky Prince. It allows me to keep bringing you guys all these Final Fantasy videos, like my awesome supporter Renato. A big thank you, Renato. Shout out to them and the rest of the Ultima community.